Hey PC gamers, and welcome back to the PC Gamer Chat Log. I'm Lauren Morton, and
hey everyone, I'm Molly Taylor.
And this week Molly and I are talking with senior editor Robin Valentine about the history of physical media on PC gaming, but also like sort of the rest of gaming too. Let's be real, none of us are like 100% always PC gamers, so we all have some console experience too. But we're sort of talking about, I don't know, the bad old days of when everything was on different types of cartridges and discs, and there were booklets and strategy guides and all of that stuff that some of it we miss, some of it we don't miss. Where we are currently with our physical collections, and if there's any future in returning to physical stuff. I don't know, there's probably not, if we're being real with ourselves. But before we get to that and bring Robin along, Molly, what did you do last week?
So again, not a
You're
not
in
a
a
lot
comfort
of,
zone right now.
I am not a lot of PC gaming at the minute. I played a
Okay.
little bit of Final Fantasy 14. I did go to some arcades as I always do. For those of you who haven't listened to the podcast before, I'm really big into rhythm games, especially arcade rhythm games. So anytime I get to go out and do those, that is something that I really enjoy doing. So I traveled across the country over the weekend to go to some arcades I'd never been to before and play some rhythm games I'd never played before. And it was super fun. It was really, really enjoyable. So that is kind of what I got up to. And then I have been considering playing Tekken 7. I haven't, but I
You were heavy
am,
on Tekken 7 like earlier in the year, right? Like kind of over the summer.
yeah. But I'm kind of waiting for Tekken 8 now, to be honest. But I
Yeah.
am at a Tekken 7 tournament in France this weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I should practice. I don't know. I'm kind of over Tekken 7 at this point. But I feel like it would be good to play a little bit. But they do have Tekken 8 at this event in France. So I think,
Ooh, okay.
yeah, I think I will be going out of the tournament quite quickly and then
Mm-hmm.
immediately making a beeline for the Tekken 8 setups and
Yeah,
just
to get hands-on time.
yeah, just staying there for the weekend and that will do
Mm-hmm.
me just fine. So yeah, like not a whole lot of PC gaming this week, but a decent amount of arcade
Of
gaming.
gaming. Yeah.
Yeah, gaming. There's to me like nothing beats physically going out and like being able to like play a
Mm-hmm.
game right next to your friends in like
Mm-hmm.
some dingy little arcade. It feels so good. So yeah, that was my week. Very, very chill,
Mm-hmm.
gaming wise. How about you, Lauren?
Let's see. I played the demo for a game called Howl, which is that like folklore turn-based strategy game. I think
Oh.
it launched this month, the full version of it, and I've just played the demo so far. But it's neat. It's interesting. It's turn-based in that you don't like watch a ticker of whose turn is up next between you and enemies. What you're doing is actually planning a full turn, which involves multiple moves, like move right, move up, shoot an arrow. And as you do each of those parts of your turn, the enemies are reacting. So you're like incentivized to do it that way. You don't want to just like lock in one move per turn. So you're predicting based on where you're planning to go in your turn, where the enemies are going to go in response to that also during your turn. So you're doing things like moving two spaces and turning and firing an arrow where an enemy is not, but they will be because you know where they're planning to go.
Oh.
Um, yeah, it's like it's not like chess in it like it has no pieces that are like chess, but it incentivizes this like thinking it like multiple moves ahead and like how somebody will like it sort of teaches you how each enemy's like movement patterns work and like what they should do to respond to you and like how you should be able to predict it. So it's like puzzly in addition to
Mm.
strategy, like and maybe even as much puzzle as it is strategy for sure, because you should be able to understand like how the pieces are gonna react to you. So that was a fun demo. I really enjoyed that more than I was expecting to. And I went back and played more of Chants of Sonar as well, which I talked about like, I don't know, last month or something, of the language learning a fantasy like cozy game that's so neat. It's just so pretty. I really enjoy it. I got through one of the like this darker second area, and now I'm out into this like very pretty garden place, and like in each new level of the tower you're learning the language of a different group of people, and you're sort of building on the language that you've already mastered. You'll like see signs with like two translations, and you're like, okay, so that's three symbols I know because this is a direct translation of the language I already know. And then you're going to like meet all these people who just say stuff you don't understand. You're like, okay, that's probably hello because like everybody says that first, that symbol. And then you're walking around doing like different little puzzly pieces like with interactions and stuff to like try and match up what symbols mean. Anyway, I've described it before. I've played more of it last week. It's not a short game. It is not a short game. I've put 7 hours in, and there's probably at least 7 more to go.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'm gonna keep cracking on Chance of Sonara for sure. I'm really enjoying just like sort of chipping at it week by week. Yeah, but that's what I did last week. Some puzzly stuff. I'm
Ooh.
enjoying a little bit of puzzle thinky time for sure. So with that all done, then let's go grab Robin to talk about physical media. Hey, Robin, thank you for coming and talking with Molly and I this week about kind of like a little eulogy for physical media, I suppose. We all lived through that era, like before everything was digital, and remember the days when we had CDs or floppies or cartridges strewn about and everything else that went with games back in the day. Do you guys still have like physical things, games, or like things that go with them laying around? Have you kept stuff?
I think Robin is a no, right?
I've tried to ditch a lot of that stuff. I'm a little bit. I try and be a little bit anti. I guess like anti-materialist. I don't like having lots of stuff in my house. So I've held on to like a few odds and ends. Um, I have like an original League of Legends disc, which I just have because the idea of there being a League of Legends disc like makes me laugh. Um, uh,
Ironic possession of League of Legends.
yeah. Also, I don't like League of Legends anymore, so it's I don't even have nostalgia for the game anymore.
You
Um,
couldn't even frame it. It's just guiltily in a like drawer somewhere.
I do also own a lot of PS4 games, but that's because I used to work on a magazine where we would get sent uh, like unmarked discs for PS4, so I just have a big like tub of those. But when it comes to PC games, I very much embraced. Um, I don't really have any fond memories of putting discs in PCs, to be honest. So I embraced it as soon as they went.
Yeah, you say you're like anti kind of like materialistic. You don't like having all that. I'm the opposite. I love having physical stuff. In terms of PC games, I don't have a lot anymore. I still have like my old copies of like all my Sims 2 expansions and my Sims 3 expansions. And I have like a couple other PC games that I just seem to have held on to. Like I have like a copy of Deus Ex, which I have still not fully played. I have like Cardinal Sin for a PC gamer. I have like a PC copy of Viva Pinata for some reason. But in terms of like PC things, not a whole lot anymore. But I do still have a lot of console games. I still have a lot of physical console games. That is like my big thing. Lauren, which side of the fence are you falling on? Is it a 2v1 again?
It is. I'm a guilty hoarder.
It's a
I
2v1 with us too?
Yeah, we're on the same side for once, Molly.
Oh my
Sorry about it.
god.
Normally she brings in someone to beat me up and have the opposite opinion of me. um yes, I'm actually so apologies for me roughing it this week. I am hiding away from construction that is happening near my office, but that means that I'm actually sitting in the room where all of my physical stuff is tucked away at the moment. I still own like several old consoles, like things that are now retro but were my original consoles. I've got, several different Nintendo systems in here and like associated games. And uh, I still have like old guidebooks and things like that laying around too. And I probably have CDs somewhere, but like the like actual physical PC CDs, I feel like I got rid of. at some point. And just like you, Robin, I was like, I don't need to own these. I don't have an optical drive. I'm not going to get a USB or like anything, an external optical drive to like play with any of this stuff. So
That was a real like moment of closure for me, was when they just stopped putting CD drives in PCs altogether,
yeah,
and I was like, oh, like I can move on. I'm free. Even
You're
if I
free.
wanted to, I can't put these in my computer anymore. There is no slot.
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with like the digital library. Is even if like I guess I don't know how you guys feel about like physical things now. Like we're talking about old stuff, but then also things that you buy now. I've gone through this year with reading, where I've been trying to like pick up physical copies of things that I really enjoy instead of just having them on an e-reader, which like, we all have a sense of fear and malaise, I think, about kind of digital ownership. So I've like, okay, you should get physical copies of the things you really love. But like for PC games, how? How? It doesn't matter. It can't be done. What would I do with them even if I had them? I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
buy. Molly, I think you still buy cartridges for consoles, right?
Yeah. So
And
I
CDs.
still buy most of my console games physically. Especially like the big games, like the games I really care about. Maybe if a game is super cheap digitally, I might grab it then. Like there are, certain cases, but for the most part I really do prefer to buy physical. I think cuz it's more tangible, right? I really love being able to like look at a physical collection rather than like I feel quite detached from like a list of games in like a digital store or digital library, but when I can like see every cartridge and I can like pick out like a case, I don't know, for me that just I love like how physical it is. And I'm quite a sentimental person as well, which probably plays into the fact that I really, really love having physical media. But for PC games, like it's, I'm kind of forced to embrace digital with it now, but it was never really something that I was very attached to, as like physical PC games. I think because a lot of the PC games I owned when I was a kid were like the bargain bin ones, like you would go, we have like pound shops in the UK where it's like everything is a pound. And they used to have like a little section that was just crammed with like really crappy PC games. And that was always what I would buy. And, I grew up in like the era as well where like torrenting was very common, right? And I'm not, that was mostly for music, but I remember there being like a few games that we ended up pirating when I was a kid as well, because I think it was like very common and very like normalized when I was growing up in that age. And I think as well, part of that is like PC games were so difficult to acquire secondhand. Like, this is a big reason I think why I just didn't have that many physical PC games to start with, because buying them secondhand was such a ball ache, right? It was like they either had to be sealed, they had to have never been played, or they had to have like the little pamphlet that had like the CD key on the back, right, that you could put in. And I think that when I was a kid was like a big sort of roadblock to me owning PC stuff physically. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why it died out as well, because physical PC games were a pain.
I forgot about keys, about CD
Yep.
keys. The like what did we call it? Oh my god, like a software code or whatever, an ownership thing, a way of tracking ownership before the sort of digital methods that we have now. Yeah, you just had to have the key to prove that you bought the dang thing firsthand.
Well, there was this weird period where you could. I think they had to be able to enable PC games to be sold secondhand, but they would do things like there would be like a DLC code that only the first person to redeem it would get. There were like weird incentives to be the first person to own the game. Um, yeah, that was an odd period. I was the same as you in an earlier era, Molly. I started with all piracy, but it was all on like floppy disks that had like
Yeah.
Monkey Island written on them in biro. Um, so that maybe that is a part of it. Maybe if early on you're kind of given this idea that video games don't exist on like printed CDs, man. They just like they're just like everywhere and you can just like take them, then like maybe
They're just out in the air, man.
that like disconnects you from the physical reality of them. I don't know. Although I did used to buy a lot of instead of the pound shop, I used to get a lot of PC games secondhand from my local game, um, and they were like almost universally terrible because if someone had taken it back to the shop, it probably wasn't that good. So maybe that
Yeah.
also played a part. I don't know.
Do you guys remember when games came on multiple discs, like multi CDs? Molly and I have talked about this before and like tried to remember some of the biggest games we owned. Robin, did you have any like immensely multi disc things that you owned on PC?
I mean, I think World of Warcraft was a big one. I remember that being like taking a. I mean, the thing that was there was like a ritual to it, which I think I do have a little bit of nostalgia for, in that like you would really settle in to install a game, and it was like a process, and you couldn't just walk away from it. Like you were involved, and you would be like
Yeah.
reading the
Like
manual while it was
buttons?
going and stuff. But it's one of those things that like I do have some nostalgia for it, in the same way like I have nostalgia for like the dial-up internet tone and stuff. But that doesn't
Hmm.
mean the whole experience was actually good. It was actually incredibly frustrating to want to play a game and then have to spend like 4 hours messing about before you actually got to play it. But yeah, I think World of Warcraft was the biggest one I owned. I'm trying to remember if there were any. There were definitely like there was definitely a thing where you would get a game and you would open it up and you would be like, oh, this is like 5 CDs. This is gonna blow my mind. Like this is gonna be this is
That was a
this is
measure
like
of quality.
this is the war and peace of video games. Like this is gonna really be something. Um, and actually, it probably, much like file sizes now, it probably actually doesn't have much correlation to whether the game is actually
No,
big or
absolutely not.
quality or not or anything. But I definitely had used to get that feeling. Um, yeah, but yeah, even stuff that didn't seem that big, I remember would often be like 2 or 3 discs.
Yeah.
For some reason,
You
like
would have like the
Soul.
installation disc and like the playing disc, right? So you would have the disc that you would only use to install the game. And then it was like, okay, that disc is like irrelevant
Nothing.
now. Yeah, here's the other disc that you use to actually play the game. That's what I
Sometimes
Yeah,
they'd get
last
remember.
like
time.
they get like bonus discs in there. Sometimes they'd be like, "Oh, this disc's just got like behind the scenes featurettes on it or something," and it's like they're trying to pad out the discs to make
Yeah.
it seem even bigger. Um, I think Morrowind actually. I'm thinking now. I think Morrowind had a lot of CDs in it as well, or at least that may have also been some kind of bonus features. But I remember it had these little Velcro things that you peeled off to get into the different
Ooh.
boxes of
Oh
CDs.
yeah.
Yeah, hell
Last time
yeah.
Molly and I talked about it, I remembered Fable, the original Fable on PC. That's one of the few multi-disc things I owned on PC. That was probably like 4 discs or something like that. And then like as Molly you mentioned, Sims games and their expansions were all like multi-CD affairs. But then it was mostly on consoles, I feel like, where I had that like multi-disc experience otherwise. And obviously, yeah, so the rise of higher internet speeds and always online things and everything else has sort of killed discs, right? Nobody has an optical drive in their PC. And I don't think any of us really miss that. As you're saying, Robin, you have some like nostalgia, but like, do you actually want to sit and install all the CDs? No, absolutely you do
It's
not.
kind
Are
of
there
fun.
okay, yeah, but like if we really had to go back to that, Molly, like if we really had to live that life, it feels so cute. You're like, oh wow, I'm roughing it. Like, like so cottage core PC,
The
like
slums of PC
installing
gaming.
a CD. But like you
Growing
actually
your own
hate it, right?
vegetables, but with PC games.
Yeah, you're like, but then you're like, where's the indoor plumbing of PCs? Like, please help.
I don't know. My games take so long to download, like from the internet anyway, that it doesn't feel any
What's
different
the
to me.
difference?
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
you
Yeah.
just
can
don't
you
get
can
the fun of
recreate
like swapping out.
you
I
can
don't get to swap
recreate
out
this
a little
experience
disc.
for yourself by like numbering a series of coasters and then just like laying them out one by one over the course of 4 hours. Like there wasn't that much you actually did.
It was just like, oh, okay, it's been half an hour. Time to put disc 2 in because it tells me to. Then I guess I get to wait another 40 minutes before
there
disc
is there
3.
is something to like the idea that I think the more like time and kind of physical space you have to give over to a game before you play it, the more you the more you actually sit with that game, and almost the more like attention you actually give it once you're able to play it, and the more it kind of sits in your mind. Whereas I think that's definitely one of the things now, is that games feel very ephemeral now, and it's very easy to just like have this sprawling Steam library of stuff that, as you say, is just like a list of names that doesn't really mean much to you, and you fire. So I often, I mean, obviously, I'm in this job, I probably have a higher volume of games in that library than most people, but I'll often fire something up, and if it doesn't grab my attention within like 15 minutes, then like I'm out. Whereas
That's happened to me
when
recently, yeah, because it
when there
took
was
2 minutes to download.
Yeah.
yeah, and like when there was more of a ritual to it, and it felt more of a big deal. Like if I
They're more
sat there,
deliberate.
if I sat there shuffling out discs for like 4 hours, I'm giving that game at least 4 hours of play,
That's right.
because otherwise I'm on like a deficit. Like, so there is something there, but like obviously that whole ritual was deeply inconvenient. Which, convenience. If there's one thing that defines what we all want in 2023, I think it's convenience.
It is convenience, yeah, because I was curious, so I went like searching for what PC games had a lot of discs, and I saw apparently Baldur's Gate 1 had 5 discs and then like 1 disc for the expansion, I think. So
Good lord.
the original Baldur's Gate was like a 5-6 disc deal, and EverQuest 2 was 10 CDs. It was 9 CDs plus a bonus CD.
What?
Yeah, it was a
Is
lot.
that real for life?
Apparently so, yeah. They came in like a little. It was like all those, the paper, like the paper cases that you would put. Yeah, the little paper sleeves. It's
The
like
little
like
sleeves.
10 of those. Apparently, PC Gamer US magazine had reported on the that they were potentially going to do like a 2 DVD version of the game. Whether that ever happened, I'm not too sure. But I found that really interesting. 10 CDs for one game. Like I could
I
not
like they got to
imagine having to
9
do
and they
that
were
many.
like, "Wow, it's not a round number." That's.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could
Gotta
scrape
put it
together
into
like a
10.
game soundtrack or something and make it up to 10.
Bonus disc.
I'm just remembering, like, okay, also from that era, like, just all the design of all things was so like bespoke to the technology at the time. Like, if you like TV cabinets, anywhere you put your TV was freaking square. And like, I feel like everybody's parents have that shelf that was meant for a TV that was a 4:3 aspect ratio. And now they have a flat screen TV there that doesn't really fit. And it's kind of awkward. Like, and
Yeah.
the same thing happened with desks. Like, there were always desk inserts that had like CD slots on them to like shelf all your CDs in a row. And now, like, what are those? Like, you can still find them on like, Facebook Marketplace or whatever, floating around like really old desks that people are just trying to get rid of. And you're like, oh yeah, that's from the era when we literally had CDs just stored in our desks all the time. Like all those jewel cases, or plastic cases or whatever they were called.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. I think generally we can agree that we don't miss the experience of PC CD installations. But are there things that the rise of digital everything has killed that you're sad about on the gaming side? Because for me, it's like the guidebooks. I miss guidebooks.
Mm.
Like, I know why they don't exist anymore. They can't exist. That's why nobody makes them, because of the way games are made and the way games are updated. You can't print a physical guidebook that's relevant for more than the day before launch day, not even launch day. Every game, like every big game, has a day zero patch. Like, your guidebook is out the window with the gun tweaks they put in Modern Warfare on day one when the campaign came out.
Yeah, it's funny because I was never really a guidebook person. I bought one strategy guide in my entire life, and that was for Final Fantasy 13. It is the only strategy guide I have ever like gone out of my way to purchase. I think even back then I was like a GameFAQs like user. I was like, if I needed to know something, GameFAQs was like immediately where I would go, right? I remember like going to the library to print off like GameFAQs walkthroughs of like Tomb Raider or something. I remember that being like a thing I did. Even then, I was relying on like community sourced information rather than like a professional guide. But I loved looking through them. And I still do love looking through them. There's like a lot of PDFs that you can see for like old guides now that I really, really love looking at, because they're such a product of the time. And like you said, I don't think you could get that anymore.
No, yeah, that's the thing is like even the places that still did like collectors strategy guides, like Black Horse still did them for a hot minute, even after
Mm-hmm.
Prima didn't anymore. And I think even Black Horse at this point is just like official art books and like other things like that. I don't think you can really get a collector's like strategy guide for anything at this point, hardly. I'd love to be wrong, but I feel like I haven't seen one in so long. Robin, did you like, do you miss any of those things from that era? Like any, like the manual inserts that were fun or like strategy guides? I don't know if you were a strategy guide book person.
Yeah, I was never really a strategy guide person, but like I'm kind of on the fence with like manuals and stuff like that because I think you remember the ones that were really cool, and often it's like cool fantasy maps and stuff like that. Like you remember the stuff that was like really substantial and cool, um, but a lot of it was bad, and just like really like you know the thing that I think that I used to struggle with was they would they would have a manual, and because there was a manual, um, there was stuff that they just wouldn't put in the game itself. So, like, the manual might be the only source of like the story of the game, or worse, the game might have the story, but a key element was only in the manual. Like, you wouldn't know what the relationship was between these two characters unless you had read the manual, or like basic game mechanics wouldn't be explained in the game itself. And I think like once you're playing a game, it's nice to just be able to be immersed in the game itself and not have to be
Mm-hmm.
referring back to the book. Um, so I think I definitely prefer a world where that stuff is all integrated. Um, and as you say, the problem is as well that manuals would often they had to be sent. I mean, I've worked in print. I know well the lead times that are involved in things like this. The manual would often have to be sent off to print long before the game had actually like gone gold,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore would contain loads of like inconsistencies because games development is like a wild roller coaster, and you never know where you're going to end up. Um, so I think people often look back, like again, like Morrowind had a fantastic manual and a fantastic map and everything like that, and people remember that stuff very fondly, and I completely get that. But uh, but there was a lot of we were talking about second-hand PC games as well. This was the other thing with second-hand PC games. Often the manual wasn't with them because like
Yeah.
someone had just kept it, or you were pirating games and you didn't have the manual in the first place. Um, I mean, not that pirates should have been like catered to, but necessarily. But me with my floppy disks, I wasn't necessarily a prime customer. But it meant that there was stuff that was just inscrutable because you were just like, well, presumably this was explained in a manual that I will never own, and I
Yeah.
can't look it up. So, so yeah. Uh,
I, I'm just thinking about like, remember when Tunic came out like last year? Did Tunic come out, the small little fox adventure game, and everybody went bananas for the fact that the manual, like, or the concept of a manual was
Oh,
inside that game.
yeah.
It sort of
Really.
had a map, like, and you like flipped through pages to like get it was sort of a quest log too. It was very, I would use the word inscrutable for that as well, but like intentionally and like playfully. And I
Yeah,
was
that
thinking
was
about like, do people really miss those game manuals, or they just miss the like these, as you're saying, like the best possible examples like this? Which, yeah, probably true.
I I
something
definitely
I
miss
something
them
I
a
do
bit.
love now that I've only come to recently is I really love making my own manual by having like a notebook. If it's like a game that's like has like a mystery involved or something like Elden Ring where there's a lot of stuff to discover, I'll have my own notebook and I'll write things in it as I go that I can like refer back to, and that gives you again, it's that ritual thing. It gives you a slightly stronger connection to that game, I think. So
Oh,
so you
that's
can kind
actually
of
really
recreate
cool.
a little bit of that feeling yourself now, I think.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think like a very Europe specific problem with those manuals as well, right, was that they were so thick. They were massive because they were having to cater to like five different languages. You would have the same manual in like English, Spanish, French, Dutch. You would have like everything. But I remember like I would always read it in English, and then I would go and I would like read it in like French or Spanish as well, just to see. I don't know why I would do this, but I was just curious as to like how it was laid out in other languages as well. And I feel like that's quite a Europe specific thing.
Speaking of stuff that you still like collect, I was just thinking about like aside from like art books and whatever else, because I do like having book things. Like those are one of my favorites. But also, I think Molly, we talked about this like way earlier this year. Steelbook cases. I will
Hmm.
order a collector's edition that has a steelbook case in it for like the console version, like for my freaking PS4 that I don't play, just so I can have the steelbook case.
No,
No,
I,
neither of
no,
you. No,
I'm
I
not
no,
don't
into
no.
it.
understand steelbooks. I never have. Why would you want a fancy version of the box? I don't
I
understand.
don't know, Robin. Because it's fancy and they told me it was fancy, so I want it. And I'm very malleable.
I like consistency, and that is something that I think PC games were not. Like they're like boxes, unless you were buying like the bargain bin like PC games, it was like an old ass Worms or something. Like unless you were buying those games, those boxes was not consistent. They were not consistent in like thickness, they were not consistent in like size. No. I like consistency. And yeah, that is something I do not miss when it comes to PC games.
One of my favorite things about PC gaming is that it's chaos, and it always has been, and it always will be. An endless roiling limbo of chaos. That's one of the best things about PC gaming. You never know what's going to happen. Your shelf looks mad. Love it.
Yeah, wait, okay. So I brought up like the old desks with the CD shelf insert things, but like what were your actual like desk aesthetics for both of you from that era? I don't even know if I could remember anymore, but do either of you?
Yeah, I'm really trying to remember. I remember it was like a desk shoved in the corner of like my dad's bedroom because we technically lived in a one bed flat, but we converted the living room into a bedroom, so we had like two bedrooms and then like just a kitchen. And I remember, so like because my dad's room was the biggest room in the house because it was the living room, so the computer was in his room, shoved up in the corner, and I think it was like quite a small wooden desk. I don't remember it being particularly like huge. But I think it had like little cupboards, where you could store all your like DVD side, because this was when like we were starting to get DVD PC games. We were sort of graduating out of CD-ROMs. So they had like loads of slots for your DVDs. I have a feeling it might have had a built-in CD rack, because I feel like built-in CD racks was, like you said, they were so common with furniture back then. There might have been a built-in CD rack. All I remember was it was like a light wood, and it had cupboards with all my crappy little PC games in there.
And yours was chaos, Robin? Just pure chaos.
I well, I think in the floppy disk days it was complete chaos. I think I had like a shoebox or something. Like there was no order then, but yeah. Once we graduated up to like DVD cases, those kind of went nicely on a shelf. Even I don't mind if they all look like different and higgledy piggledy. I have no sorting system anyway. Um, I remember I did used to really like. So I had one of those kind of stubby like CD towers where it was like a little plastic tube, and then you could
Yeah.
just put like 100 CDs on that thing. But then the thing that I really liked was those like CD books where it would like zip open, and then you could just have them all in a folder. And I had like
Yes.
I
Yes.
had like five of those that were just full of CDs. I think that
I
was always
still have
my like.
one.
I
I
had one
still,
for ages because I had a load of like burned music on CDs, like some sort of that's the most retro thing I've done into the 2000s. I think was I had loads of burned CDs in one of those books. But
Yes, those
uh,
big like portfolio opener
yeah.
things.
yeah,
Yeah,
You
with
could
a
have
bunch of
like you could have like the big ones. It was like 6 CDs like per page, or you could have like the little ones where it was just the one.
oh,
I
I loved
still have
flipping
one of.
through the little ones.
It's so
I like
satisfying.
the
I
little
still
ones,
have a
yeah.
little one because it was really great for taking to university because I didn't have to bring like 30 games with me. I could just put them all in like a little CD case instead. So they're so good.
That was
I
always
totally forgot about those.
even then I was basically trying unknowingly trending towards minimalism because I thought it was the coolest thing ever if you could have all your games in like one like tiny book that zipped up and they were all there for you. Like I thought that was so cool. So that was always what I was going for.
The like weird zipper that like aesthetic was so just prominent generally like late 90s early 2000s because that's what we had to
Mhm.
carry to like a middle school was a trapper keeper, the big 3-ring brown thing, and it unzips whoosh, and you open it up and like that's also what you put your CDs and your games in.
I can smell like the leather and the plastic of like the plastic sleeves that you put the discs
What
in.
is
I
that
can
with
like
leather?
smell it just talking about it. Had such like a unique like scent. I don't know. I don't know.
So bougie that yours were made of leather, and mine were definitely made out of like nylon or something. That was that
It
Yeah,
was
probably was
absolutely.
nylon. There was like I remember my little
100%
one
Office
was
Depot.
my little one was leather, but I think the bigger ones were definitely something of a cheaper build.
I mean, I had zippers all over my baggy cargo trousers at that time, so why not have zippers all over everything else? That was definitely the vibe.
Just stuff a whole CD holder into your cargo.
Oh, you could absolutely head down the LAN party with that swinging on your ankle. Perfect.
Beautiful. Okay, so those are the things that we miss. We also wanted to talk a little bit about like the I don't know the dark side, not to be too fatalistic, I guess, but the dark side of going digital, as we sort of alluded to, and like you had pointed out, Robin, is that like we don't own anything, and we all know this, and we all sort of have like these negative feelings about the fact that we don't freaking own anything. Like, do you guys do anything to combat that? How do you feel about it? The digital ownership plague.
I think like it's something that I'm kind of aware of being bad that we have like signed away basically our ability to actually own games. Um, but I think I'm like yet to be burned by it. I think I can never summon up that much like upset because there's never really been a situation for me where I'm like I really want to play this game and I can't because it's been removed from stores or whatever. Um, I think my worst version of that is just like I really want to play this game and I own it on like some bespoke launcher that isn't really supported anymore or something like that. But um, but yeah, I think there's definitely, particularly for kind of games preservation, there are some pretty serious concerns people have with digital ownership that I think are completely legitimate, and I do understand um, people who are very like anti DRM and kind of support platforms like GOG on the basis that they can at least like download things and then just have the files on their computer and kind of at least have that level of protection. But yeah, basically, I mean, I think we've been shielded a little bit by the fact that like Steam is quite a consumer friendly platform for all the problems that it has. It has like a near monopoly and is very consumer friendly, and they've kind of maintained this standard that like um, we won't mess with your game libraries, and like even if something gets taken off the store, it won't get taken out of your library, and kind of doing right by us in that way, I think. But in a way, maybe that's just lulled us into a false sense of security, and we've all just been a bit too happy. I completely admit that I'm someone who I- I'm so tempted by convenience. I will sign away any rights you want to make my life like slightly easier and faster. So I totally get people's concerns with that stuff, but I find it hard to kind of summon up much anger myself. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
Robin, you're the frog that's being boiled.
I'm
That's
yeah,
that's what.
100%. I'm having a lovely bath. I'm enjoying it, and I don't want to think about what happens in 20 minutes time when the French arrive or whatever.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's something that I'm definitely aware of for sure. I think that's why I still buy my console games physically because if, a day comes where, we've seen it especially with Nintendo, not obviously this isn't PC related, but we've seen it with Nintendo in the last few years where like the Wii store shut down a few years ago, the 3DS eShop shut down quite recently, and like seeing all of these things kind of go and like we're losing a lot of games to that in the process. And that's it's a bummer. It's definitely a bummer, and I want to be able to, in like 5 years or 10 years, I want to be able to be like, oh, I'm in the mood to play this game kind of as it was meant to be played, i.e., like not through emulation. And I want to be able to like that be a thing that's possible. I also find that when like digital storefronts shut down or when access to a game digitally is revoked, the price of the physical game skyrockets, right? I don't want to be caught with my pants down when that time comes and I'm like, oh, I really want to play this game. And then I go to like buy it and it's fucking like $100, just for like that. Just for that little hit of nostalgia. Like it's happening a lot with like the Pokemon games as well. Like the price of those is going absolutely like bananas since like 2016, 2017. The price of those has just been like steadily ramping up. And yeah, I think it's partly like I want to be able to hold on to those things because I am worried about like a day where I won't be able to play the stuff that I enjoy, and that will suck.
Yeah, like I said, I've taken steps to solve this with books because there's a clear path to solving it. Like physical books still get sold in stores. And even if you don't have a great physical store, you can buy physical books on Amazon, of course, even if you don't want to do e-reader, like you can get like your hands on them very easily still. And there's just not a path to that for PC games. There is, as you say, Molly, for consoles, like I own some Nintendo Switch cartridges mostly because of storage space, not because of my concerns over losing like access to the games. But on PC, yeah, as we said, there's no real way to retain like a physical kind of storage, but and even like digital storage, like the fact that everything is on your hard drive is not the issue really. It's the fact that it's like tied to a storefront that may or may not like require you to be logged into that storefront in order to access the thing that's downloaded on your computer, right?
Yeah.
That's the real issue. And as you said, Robin, like that's a DRM thing. And that's why a lot of people feel strongly about GOG and whatnot. Because like, yeah, even if I have a giant SSD or a hard drive, and I have enough space to store literally all the games I've bought on Steam and every other platform, like, do I still get access to them if something goes down with Steam someday in the
Yeah.
future that we, knock on whatever you want and hope that doesn't happen. But as you said,
Yeah.
Robin, they have a monopoly and they've treated us well so far. And we're all just hoping they keep doing it.
Because Steam has like an offline mode, right? So if like your internet is down or if you're not wanting to, and that gives you access to like most of your games, right? If, say, for example, you don't have internet, but I had it. This was a couple months back now. I was having some issues with my internet and it was down for like 2 or 3 days or something. It was down for an entire weekend. A weekend where I just happened to have no plans. So I was like, okay, well, I'll play The Sims. And, I booted up the EA app and I could not play The Sims 4, a game that inherently does not require an online connection in order to play it. There are some features that are tied to online play, but by and large, you do not need an internet connection to play that game. And I could not play it without internet because it was making me. And it's stuff like that as well that does like worry me is it's not just one day that game might get revoked, but it's like, what if your internet does go down and suddenly you can't play all of these games that you don't technically own but you bought. Nah, it's not for me. I don't like it.
It is all predicated on, like, a lot of the stuff is predicated on this idea that everyone's got like great internet connections, which obviously like lots of people don't, and there are definitely lots of people who've been kind of pushed to the fringes by this stuff. If you live out somewhere rural or somewhere kind of remote, it might take you like 2 or 3 days to download a game from Steam if you even can. So I think
Mhm.
in that way, it's kind of uh, it's kind of excluded some people, which is not ideal either. I think even like Steam has like an offline mode and stuff, but even on Steam, it feels like it's something you have to like plan for. Like you have to
Yes.
like kind of know that you're going to go offline and like set yourself to offline and obviously have stuff downloaded and have games updated and stuff. And then a lot of games, even if Steam lets you launch them offline, the game itself might not let you continue.
Has an extra layer of launcher for, whether it's Rockstar or EA or Ubisoft or BattleNet or something
Yeah,
else. Yeah, you can buy it through Steam, you can launch it through Steam, and then also the launcher beneath that as well that has its own requirements. Yeah.
yeah. I think this is something that's like a kind of wider thing, really. That like our society kind of assumes a better quality of internet than we actually have a lot of the time, like a more widespread quality of internet. I think it's particularly an issue in the States, because you're talking about such a bigger geographical area with so many more kind of remote and rural areas than we have in the UK. But even in the UK, I know out in the countryside there are lots of people that just do not have the connections to be regularly downloading and installing Steam games.
Yeah, even for my partner who comes from a rural place, it like having decent internet in that area has been a big deal in the last 5 years. It's not that they couldn't play games before, in the 2000s. They definitely did, and they downloaded things on Xbox or whatever, but they definitely trended towards keeping all the discs and not doing stuff that required big downloads. And yeah, just generally the internet access out there has changed drastically, since we've been together, since I've been witnessing um, that area. But yeah, it's a big barrier to moving people over to PC gaming, is that leap of faith onto this platform, kind of, right?
Yeah, I think
and,
there's
and,
no
and other
like
countries too.
there's no clear winner, I think. There's a lot of benefits to physical games, but there's a lot of benefits to digital as well, right? And I think I do prefer digital overall as a concept because like you say, Robin, convenience is such a huge thing, right? And being able to have 200, 300, 400 games on Steam where they're not taking up physical real estate is a big thing, right? That's a big win. But it comes with all the caveats of internet and ownership and all that kind of scary stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see. As we get sort of towards the end here, on back on the lighter note, do we have a favorite piece of ye old physical era? We kind of talked about some things that we really love, but either one specific thing that you actually own, or a specific type of thing that you really miss, um,
Hmm.
from Yondon days, other than the unzippable CD holders, which we clearly all share
And the
the
setup
same amount of love
wizards.
for.
And a classic setup wizard. I love a setup wizard. I think something that I do miss that isn't necessarily to do with owning physical games, but it was the process of walking into a game store and sort of physically flicking through cases and picking out ones that had really cool box art, and then I would read the back and see if the back interested me as much as the front did, kind of thing. And these days I mostly just rely on what Steam feeds me or what marketing feeds me. I will go out and search myself as well, obviously, but I feel these days it's a lot less me physically going and looking through every single game. And box art is definitely something I really miss. I still get it with console games, but it was such a nice thing seeing a cool image on the front of a case and being yo, this looks sick, let me read what this game's about. And then we used to have a lot of 4 for £20 or 3 for £10 deals, and I would always do that. I would pick out 4 games that I loved the look of, and that it was that excitement of being able to walking in and not knowing what you were going to come out with. I kind of miss that because I don't really get that anymore.
Robin, do you have any bit of history that you miss most?
Um, I'm very unnostalgic as a person, to be honest. I like you. I love a really good art book, which is thankfully still a thing, and I love particularly a rarer thing is a really good lore book because
Ooh.
I've always loved like tabletop role playing books and like wargaming books that are very. You get a lot of these kind of ponderous tomes that are like full of like backstory and stuff. And whenever a video game series does one of those, like so, I've got a couple of there's a short series of Dragon Age ones that is all I think it's called like the World of Thedas or something like that, and there's like three
Yep.
volumes. Such wonderful books, like so full of like all this beautiful art and like all of this wonderful like texture to that world, kind of almost like a bible of that world, like um and kind of written in this like they have to like write around all the choices you might have made, so there's loads of bits where they're like, oh well, legend says that he died in the tower, but who knows, because maybe you didn't kill him when you played it. um
Do you have
so
a
I really
Hyrule Historia, Robin?
I've never really been a Zelda person, so I
Oh
don't know.
man. Okay.
This is the thing: is there's only so many series where I would actually care enough to want that, and then within that realm, there's only very few that have actually done it. But the ones that have, I love that, and uh, I'm still a sucker for any kind of very beautifully put together like book, kind of um, all about that thing. I mean, recently there are these beautiful watercolor art books of the films Labyrinth and Dark Crystal, and they're like presented as like a bestiary of all the creatures. Obviously, that's not a video game thing, but it's that same thing of like that evokes that moment of first watching those films really strongly to me, and kind of feels like stepping back into that world a bit in a way that like I think a non-physical object wouldn't. Um, but even those, I only have so much space on my shelf, so it's tight competition for who gets on the art book shelf. So you know, I mostly I am a hermit in the desert, free of such physical restraints, apart from all the
I'm
Warhammer models that I have.
I'm horrible. I think one of the things I miss most, and this is more of a console thing, is the like horrible specialty peripheral things, like and cables and inserts. Like I miss the fact that Game Sharks existed, and like the extra RAM pack for the N64, and like those things that came out to connect your Game Boy DS,
Yes.
for like a Zelda Four Swords, so that you all played on your DS, and there was a link cable from it, and it turns into a controller for the GameCube or whatever it was at the time. Love all that ridiculous stuff. Just like it's too much, too many cables, too many devices. It was like just maximalist to like everything. But as far as PC stuff, I think I miss Molly, as you were talking about like the anticipation of installing stuff. I miss an old school installation loading bar. I miss the segmented green things and
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there eating goldfish and drinking a Diet Coke and like listening to a CD on an actual CD player, or like burning something in the background and having like AIM, AOL Instant Messenger up on the side and just being like, finish installing, finish installing, finish installing. Like
Like the
waiting for
specific
however long
splash
that
screen as
takes.
well
Yeah.
for that, like that game. Like the games always had their own like
Oh yeah.
installation screens that were like specific to the game. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Hate it
Much as
these
I
days.
say, much as I'm calling it cottage core, the cottage core of PC gaming, the idea that you would like installing CDs again, I don't know. Maybe I would. Maybe it's adorable and I should get into like baking bread and installing CDs or something. I just that's where I'm landing on this. Robin, I'm glad you are so free from sin and you are detached from the physical realm. I mean, you will be okay without all of the garbage that Molly and I like cling to
Yeah.
in the
That's
past.
my message to all listeners is: I know you want to hoard stuff. I know you want all the physical objects in your house. You want to fill your house with shiny things that you think will make you happy. They won't. Let them go. You'll be better off.
We leave you all. Be in peace. That is our PC Gamer blessing for this week. Be at peace. Thanks, Robin.
Thank
Thank
Bye,
you.
you.
guys.
Bye.